I do because I admire other people and their lives and realize that the strongest among us are sometimes weak and the smartest are sometimes foolish. It allowed me the opportunity to re-explore what I had abandoned on the basis, in part, of a shock to the system when seeing that movie, and in part on the basis of an expectation that reason was a sufficient tool that all the kindred things that I believe religion supports at its best, of compassion and decency and goodness and so on, they could all be subordinated if we would just be reasonable with one another. This is an illusion that I think is probably fairly common to 17-year-olds, but no grown-up should believe it. And I suppose what I'm saying is I grew up.
My own early atheism was not the same as the rabbis in that it would never occur to me if I did believe in God, that, or in a supervising and creating deity, that I could possibly ask him for an explanation. I mean, you either believe that there's someone who's ineffable, unknowable, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, or you don't. You don't say, there's a God and I may as well complain to him. Why does he allow suffering? What a question. How would you know? You don't even know enough to ask the question. Otherwise, God is just a dialogue partner, man-made, as I would suggest, as I believe all gods to be. And I think your question gives away the fact that that is, in fact, the case. But the God who we're really supposed to think about doesn't owe us an explanation. It can't be asked for one. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do good things happen to bad people? That's what worries me much more. And I see a great deal more of. So I just saw through the stupid claim that the apparent order and beauty of the universe, as my biology and scripture teacher tried to tell me, testified to an argument from design. I could see through that when I was 11, and I don't think anyone couldn't see through it by the time they were about 8. It's an argument not worth having. It's been so conclusively discredited by now that I can't believe I had it even at that age. As to the question, and by the way, I don't think any religion isn't ultimately based on an argument from design, on the idea that because there is some kind of order in the universe, someone must be ordering it. And I think the obvious fallacy of that is the beginning of one's critique. As to why I support the liberation of Iraq, still do support it, nothing could be simpler. All my Iraqi, Arab and Kurdish friends, almost all of them Marxists of one kind or another, had for a long time been hoping that the United States policy would change from one that supported Saddam Hussein to one that asked for his overthrow. And I thought that was a reasonable request. I joined a committee that urged for it. The president of Iraq is now a democratic socialist elected Kurd, whose countrymen were being killed by poison gas en masse a few years ago, instead of a hysterical Jew-baiting, terrorist-supporting weapons of mass destruction using Nazi. Everyone else I know thinks Iraq would be much better off if it had been left the way it was. Well, fine. I don't mind being in a minority on that. I'm as proud as I could be that those Iraqis who outlived Saddam Hussein saw the destruction of his regime and his party, the emancipation of their country and their people, can count on me as a friend. It's not me who owes the explanation. The people who owe the explanation are those who thought Iraq was fine when it was the private property of a psychopathic fascist crime family that had a windpipe hold on a major jugular point of the world economy, and thought that that would work out all right because he was in a sanctions box that was in the meantime killing the Iraqi people and their civil society. No, 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 no. History will be very firm on this, and if it doesn't vindicate me, I don't care about that, it'll certainly vindicate the liberation of Iraq.
I'm addressing this to the congregation because we didn't say anything about asking each other questions, so I'm going to pretend that this is to you, but in fact this is a question for Mr. Hitchens. You heard him say that the one thing that gives him pause is the fine-tuning of the universe, the remarkable fine-tuning of the universe, that somehow this world exists even though the odds are astronomically small that such a world would exist. And then he said An 8-year-old can see through the argument for design. The argument for design is that this world is in fact designed so that it exists, even though it seems very improbable that you should get such a beautiful and wonderful world. So I wonder, out into the world, how one would reconcile such a contradiction.
Well, the answer is actually partly supplied in your own book, sir, where you you use the phrase very suggestively more than once of our creation, our little blue globe, alone as it is in the cosmos, as far as we know, being on a knife edge. This being a knife edge difference.
Yes.
That's exactly, by an odd coincidence, the expression I employ in my own book. Why do I do so? I can't say why you do, but I'll say why I do. Hugh Montefiore, Jewish convert to Christianity, later Bishop of Southwark and later Bishop of Birmingham, in his book Credible Christianity says, the conditions for life on our planet, are so knife edge and so finely tuned that you can hardly believe that. Okay, yes, look how knife edged out. Just look at our own tiny little suburb of the cosmos, just our solar system. The other planets are all either too hot or too cold to even make it thinkable that they could support life. And very large parts of our own planet are much too hot or too cold to support any life. And we well know, we have good reason to know more lately, that that knife edge of climatic crisis could tip either way very easily. So just out of one solar system, there's only one planet that isn't a complete screw-up, and it's on a knife edge. Some design. I repeat, this designer is either cruel and capricious, or incompetent and bungling, or both, because the two things are not exclusive. And in the meantime, the heat death and meltdown of the sun that will cause our oceans to boil before the planet turns into a crisp is already inscribed in all the laws of physics that we know, and the Andromeda Galaxy is coming our way, as I told you, and the Hubble red light shift means that there will be so much nothingness that there'll be no way of remembering there was ever somethingness. What design is this? Yes, knife edge is the right word. And that's your deity. That's your omnipotent. That's your omniscient. That's your loving. That's your caring. That's your efficient. That's your designing authority. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, I really do ask you, are you going to repose your faith in something as crackpot as that?
Well, this is a good moment to find out what the audience is asking. Thank you.
By design.
Okay. Thanks.
Durkheim. I forgot to do Durkheim.
Thank you.
We'll come back to it.
Whoa.
Want me to riff for a minute while we...
Durkheim, I was going to say,
Yes.
Durkheim really does show, surely, in his elementary forms of religious life, that you ask someone, why are you a Catholic? He'll say, because my parents were from Poland. All right? You're completely right in saying, yes, that these are communal, that they're designed for
Right.
civic and social solidarity.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right. Why
Because
was I baptized into the Church of
to
England?
call something communal does not suggest that communal is all it is, which seems to me to be a trope that I hear often. You define something in terms of its physical manifestation or its communal manifestation as though that invalidates the possibility that there is anything greater that also impinges on it. But I think that
To say that religion and all churches and religions are man-made isn't to criminalize them or make them contemptible. It's
right.
simply to say that they are not divine institutions. The Pope may claim to hold the keys of Peter and be the vicar of Christ on earth, but he's a bloody fool for believing that. And an arrogant one, too. And those who do believe in it are credulous and easily led. That's why they're called sheep. That's why they call themselves sheep. By the way, Bishop of New Guinea had a debate with him on the BBC the other day, trying to spread Christianity to Borneo, and I said, we can't do sheep there. They've never seen a sheep. Large parts of the world aren't sheep-oriented or even goat-oriented. What does the Bishop of Borneo now say on Easter for the Church of England as he rises in his pulpit and addresses the congregation? O Lord, behold these thy swine.
Yeah.
Because that's the valuable animal in those latitudes. Religion is man-made, and
but
it
one
shows.
second, I can't let that go. Not because you mentioned swine, but because religion operates